Welcome to Ripple Effect Connection. I'm your host, Kristi Hujik. Our mission is to empower you with valuable insights and actionable strategies that can truly enrich your life. I'm excited to bring you another episode of Coach's Corner. This is the series that opens the door to a treasure trove of wisdom and practical guidance from some of the most influential coaches in their fields. Today, I have another one of my emeritus Whole30 coaching friends joining me. Teri Riley was an advanced level Whole30 certified coach for 7 years and was also named the 2021 Whole30 Peer Coach of the Year. Along with one of our prior guests and contributors, Debbie Marlowe, she's also been a part of the exponential growth of the Facebook group called Whole30 Fabulous After 50, a group that now has nearly 12,000 members. Whole30 groups and moderating Fabulous After 50 is Teri's give back and what she does for fun. She has a lifelong passion for good nutrition and delicious food. Being diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis more than 20 years ago intensified her search for the best way to eat and made her an avid student of nutrition and healthful living. She lives in Kansas City with her husband, dog, and a huge garden. She is also a trained clinical herbalist, which informs her holistic worldview, and like me, she believes food is medicine. We get into all of this and more in our Coach's Corner with Teri Riley. I am honored to bring to the Coach's Corner one of my favorite people, Teri Riley. Teri, welcome to the Coach's Corner and to the podcast.
It's time for a good chat with a good friend.
And I think that's the best part about this podcast for me is that I get to see so many people and I get to catch up with them that maybe I wouldn't see, but I also get to bring your knowledge to anyone who listens to this. So I start out of the gate with a really hard question, I think, for everybody.
Okay.
I ask everybody who comes on, because being in the Whole30 world, we're big on the why. So talk about your why.
Mine is just to feel the best I can for the longest I can. I've always been even from being a small child, I was always interested in the natural, and I think having an autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's, I just kept thinking in my head, well, it got broke, it can get fixed, and that's not always true. Some things that are broke don't get fixed, but it just kept me looking, and it's kept thinking, well, maybe somebody came up with something new, but that's my why, just to keep seeking health, keep seeking the best I can be at whatever point of life I'm in, with vitality and emotional health and physical health. So that's my why.
What did you find that helped you be successful doing this? Because I think, we all don't end up in this space without going through something. I say that in every podcast that I have with all of us, right? So what are some of the things that have helped you maintain success in combating something like an autoimmune disease?
I am a strong questioner. And for me, it's always information, like, another study, another book, another podcast. That's what motivates me. That's what helps me stick to things. It's like I always give me facts and I'm going to be able to stick to whatever it is. It's not as much emotional or something. It's all very like, well, I know this is going to do this in my body. And I don't want that in my body, so I won't do it. But good facts are, it's kind of what I like and what motivates me.
Well, how do you disseminate those facts? Like, how do you get them? Because it's hard, right? We can find research to pretty much argue lots of sides of the coin.
Every side, yeah. It's funny, I was talking with my husband about this the other day, just like how, there is so much information that, for me, I rely on a few trusted sources because I don't have the type of brain that could be a doctor or a researcher. I can't hold facts, but I get the concept, so I have to rely on the teachers that I really trust. And, there's a few, and if they say something, I'll generally go with it, and sometimes, my trusted teachers will contradict each other and then I go deeper, but that's, And that's why, like, I see a functional medicine practitioner. Like, I get the basic concepts of how things work, but I can't read my lab panel and know that this number means this. And so
Right.
I rely on experts. Yeah.
And I think what people don't understand is that it is a puzzle when you're being treated from a functional medicine standpoint. And, obviously this is one of my goals of the podcast too, is to introduce people to understand that functional medicine isn't just for people that get sick. Right. Functional medicine is great for everyday maintenance to be the healthiest that you can be. You don't have to have an autoimmune disease to do this. Like Dr. Cole always says at the clinic, like, we don't get the easy cases. We don't. But I wish we would get the easy cases in that, like, functional medicine, you can come to us, you can do labs, and you can get some really good information, and you can develop a plan for what makes you at your optimal level. So what are some of the things that you've learned through having functional medicine care that's helped you?
Well, he really dialed in my thyroid, like, adding in T3 instead of just T4 and that. And then we're working on a lead protocol right now, and it's like a 2-year process. But I just recently got lab work that shows my kidneys are struggling. And so he changed the whole plan. He's like, well, we're off that protocol for a while, and we're going to do this and this, and then we're going to test. And it's like not alarmist. It's we asked your kidneys to do a big lift, and they need a little rest. And it was like, okay, that sounds right, instead of, oh my God, something wrong with my kidneys.
Right.
So I like that. It's just it's like we have a plan. And things change. And I really like what you said about people using functional medicine that aren't sick, because you can be almost sick and have no idea. And it's like, nip it in the bud. Like, my husband had creeping high blood sugar, didn't know it at all. And in his labs with his regular MDs, they were not concerned and didn't even bring it up. But when our functional doctor saw it, he was like, yeah, we need to work on this. It's creeping up. We got to do some things here. So it can catch things before you're the worst case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we always say, there's a bunch of whispers there that you may not be hearing, but you don't want to wait till there's a scream.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly.
You do. Like, and also I think we've normalized not feeling well. Some of the patients, you see this in Whole30, right? Some of the patients that I see that I'll be a month in or something, and they'll tell me about this symptom where, let's just say, I had one the other day who said she has diarrhea every day. And I was like, well, this never came up. This never came up in all our conversations. And she said, well, that's just the way it's always been for me. Well, but that's not normal. So I think that's the other thing. Sometimes people don't know how bad they feel until they feel good. We say that with Whole30, right? We have people come there and they don't know it. And I think, like, what your functional medicine doctor sounds wonderful, because that's absolutely what you do. You are asking the body to perform a huge lift when you're asking it to detox, but you need to go through the process. But the good thing about functional is it's based on numbers, and you can see and feel the results. And even when something goes awry, do you feel like this? When something goes awry, and I think you just touched on this, when something goes awry, there's not a panic. There's more of we have the tools to just fix this and shift and change directions, where you don't always have that with a regular doctor. I mean, the difference in the labs that we do at a functional medicine level versus what gets done on a regular, you could look fine. Look, I had MS, and all my labs look fine. My labs that my doctors were running looked fine. From a functional standpoint, they don't look fine. They don't. And so that's kind of, not to alarm, we're not trying to be alarmists, but
if it's accessible, consider it.
And that's the thing. You can look in your area for people listening. You can look in your area for a functional medicine doctor, ifm.org. I think word of mouth is great too, when you already know someone who's had success, because look, it's just like anything. A functional doctor can be stronger in some areas than others. And so you want to find the one that's got some experience in what you're dealing with. Like I know some functional medicine doctors that just wouldn't exactly know what to do if a patient had mold toxicity. They don't know the protocols inside and out per se. So I'm glad you have the care that you have and you've done what you do.
I am too. He's a great guy. Yeah.
The other thing that I know you and I we'll go back to talking more about natural methods and holistic health and things like that. But you and I first met each other through Whole30, which Teri is a Whole30 certified coach. I said in her intro, she was our peer coach of the year because everyone loves Teri. Everyone loves Teri. And, we're really, really sad that the coaching program is officially done, but I think we're all connected forever. So Teri, what brought you to Whole30 and led you to be a coach?
It was funny. I coached a group with my first Whole30. I had been kind of in the paleo world, eating for a number of years, but my sister and brother both would ask me questions all the time. Well, what about this? Well, what about this? Should I eat this? Should I not eat that? And I just started thinking, maybe somebody already wrote it all down, like a good eating plan. And I just started literally Googling paleo eating plans. I'd never heard of the Whole30. And then this was in 2016 and I found it. I'm like, well, sure enough, somebody did write it all down in a cute, hip, easy to digest way. And so I got my brother and my sister and just a group of, 15 or 20 friends and family, and we all did a Whole30 together. So for me, Whole30 and coaching have always been together. It's never not been part of it. And I think I love the group aspect of it. A lot of coaches do one-on-one, and that's just not my thing. One is I work full time, and so I can't, give an individual client what they need, but the group can, so. And then that was in 2016. I became a certified coach in, I forget, 17 or 18, whenever that got going. And now we'll be not certified coaches very shortly.
Former.
Yeah, former. I like emeritus. I'm going with
emeritus. Yes. I was like, well, we don't have the title, but you can't take away Teri's expertise. That's for sure. And you can't take away. And the thing about Teri that's been super unique is, Teri, you've never charged for your Whole30 coaching services. So, I love what you've done with your groups. Can you talk about some of your experience with some of those groups, and even like the last group that you just had, what you did with them? I think it's so cool.
Yeah, we're in the last few days of our group, and this was through my local gym, which was really fun. So we're in there seeing each other live, an exercise class every day, and it's just really fun to see, because generally my group, always, they're fully virtual, and we just use a chat app. It's GroupMe. There's no ads, there's no distractions, so it's just us. In my groups, it's an ongoing conversation from prep days through reintroduction. We're just chatting. And every few days, I post a long lesson on one of the topics, whether it's alcohol or why meat is a good choice for your life, or just, anything. And I have, they're longish, and I have a lot of links to other resources if somebody really is a questioner and wants to dig in. And then everybody just talks, they post their meals, they share a recipe, they say, I hate this and I'm going to quit. And we all are like, come on, it's just fun. And I have an alumni group for folks when they finish. And that's been going on for years and years. And we've all become really good friends. We've had a potluck in the past, and I'm hoping to do another one here when we're finally less COVID-y in this world. But people, they become friends. They hang out, and that's, I think, it's community, and I love that. That's it. It means a great, huge deal to me, and I'm really attached to my folks.
And I think that's too what people who haven't necessarily been in this space. And if you're listening to this and you're wondering what Whole30 is, we're not going to break down the nuts and bolts of what it is, but you can go back a couple episodes and listen to the episode that I did with our good friend Debbie Marlowe, and we talked about what Whole30 is and how important the reintroduction is. But I think that people underestimate how strong the community is of the people who've done it. And I know, I feel that way about my clients. I have watched them go on to do such wonderful things for their health. And I don't ever think Whole30 is an ending point for people, but it's a great starting point. It's a great starting point. And you had to go deeper. I had to go deeper, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But it is a great starting point, and you will learn something. I guarantee this. I even think, and see if you agree with this. I even think I've had clients who maybe didn't make it through the 30 days. Let's just say they got to day 20, the train got off the tracks, and they start to feel this guilt and shame over that. And we don't ever want that, because I will guarantee you that anyone who does this will learn something that they didn't know before.
100%. Even if it is, they went off the rails the first meal of the Whole30, they've learned, boy, I have some things going on there around food and feelings of restriction, and maybe I want to look at that. There's always something, no matter how long you're on the program.
Look, I learn something every time I do a protocol. I feel like I learn something about myself.
Yeah.
And so this is a constant learning thing. And I think sometimes people want a start and an end, and there really isn't an end. If you want to do what you said is your why, remain as healthy as you can be and be as vibrant as you can be, it's constant.
Yeah.
It's a constant evolution, and you've got to be willing to accept that it's going to keep going, and that you just keep that why in your focus. That's what we always say, right?
That's how we're always kind of fighting diet culture, as like people doing their Whole30 and then just going on back to whatever life and eating plan they had. And then they feel terrible in a few months and they do another Whole30. It's like, please don't do that. Actually learn what you learned and take it forward, and don't go back to what led you to feel terrible.
Now, I do want to get into the fabulous Over 50 Whole30 Facebook group.
Yeah.
Okay. So for those listening, this is a Facebook group that was created. I know Teri you were a part of this. Debbie Marlowe was a part of this.
Yeah.
I was,
you were?
This is how I got to know Teri well. I was a moderator for a while.
Yeah.
This community, I don't think anyone who's listening to this is going to understand the magnitude of this, but this Facebook group of mostly women. I think it's mostly women, but we don't say it has to be women, but it ends up being mostly women.
Yeah.
Over 50 who are doing the Whole30, working on this, and they stay in the group after for support. And there's almost 12,000 people in this group. Okay.
Yes.
So you had to bring in more moderators because it got to be a monster. So talk about how this group came about and kind of what you see in there on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. It actually came a request from Whole30 headquarters. They got so many requests from women, especially in their 50s and much later, who just wanted some support for people in their age group, because it is very different. Like, change takes longer. And they're like, well, I was in a group of a lot of people that were young, and they're all having all these things happen, and I'm not, and they just want to learn in a gentle environment that is very geared toward their age group and the special demands on us. So it just grew by leaps and bounds from the get-go. We've just, we still get, I don't know, 30 to 80 people a week. At our heyday, it was more like 150 a week, but we just keep growing, and people come in and they find a community. I mean, they can ask a question and it's safe. They can talk offline with other members. They can, and our education resources have really grown. We have a whole library of articles on all kinds of health topics. We're really we're kind of fabulous after 50 and beyond. We're not only focused on Whole30. That's kind of been our foundation and what we will, absolutely help people through. But there's, how about your sleep?
Right.
How about vitamin D? Are you, what's your level like? And that's the fun of having 8 or 9 different moderators, as we all have. We have coaches, we have yoga teachers, we have all kinds of folks who have very different, special interests, and we can all bring that to the group.
Yeah. And so if you're listening to this, that group is not going to go away. I will put a link to the group in the show notes for people too. So we'll do that. And then, okay, I want you to rank these 2 topics that we hear about in the group. I want you to rank which one would be number 1 and which one would be number 2, because this is a tough call. Here are the 2 topics: weight loss and Larrabars.
Larrabars are funnier. Weight loss is more common.
It's a good answer.
Even folks that come in, because we try to make it so upfront in our rules that you have to sign, that you understand to join. Whole30 is not a weight loss plan. We do not talk about weight loss. Over and over. And so the first post will be, I know this isn't a weight loss group, but how much weight have you all lost?
They preface it now. They're trying to sneak them in. Yeah.
Well, guess what? We're still not going to talk about weight loss, even with your intro. It's just, especially our age group. We grew up with low fat, whole grain, and really the beginning of just destructive media images for our self-esteem and what we're supposed to look like and what we're, and just all of that exploded from our childhoods onward. So we're just always trying to fight that thinking, because if diets worked, you wouldn't need Whole30, you wouldn't need a group. You would have just had your diet and there you'd be fine. But they don't work. 90 to 95%, I think it's 95% of people who lose weight gain it back. It's just a futile exercise, and every single time you do it, you become less healthy because you're losing muscle mass, and when you gain it back, you're gaining fat cells back. And it's just please don't. Just let's learn what your body likes to eat, and let's learn how to build a plate, and then let's just do that. And perhaps your body weight will change if it needs to. I am a person who has never lost an ounce on a Whole30. Some of that is because pre-Whole30, I ate this way. Whole30 was barely different, and after Whole30, it's barely different. So there's this, it's not a radical shift, but we just want people to be free of that diet culture and to just be able to learn how to listen to their body and enjoy some movement and eat real food and just have a life where they're just not caught by shame.
And I think that's the biggest thing, one of the biggest things, and I know I was going to get into takeaways, but I think one of the biggest things that I took away from Whole30 was that the uber awareness that it helps create in your body, especially if you go forward with a reintroduction, you just start to learn that the answers you need are not on the internet and not in a book. The answers you need come from you, and your body will tell you if it likes or doesn't like something. You just have to be aware of the signals is what you need. So that's, I think, my biggest takeaway from Whole30 and what it can bring. And it kind of permeates and it leaks into other parts of your life. And that's what I think is really cool about it too. What about you? What are some of your bigger takeaways?
I think my biggest one, Kristi, is the meal template. And that's kind of Whole30 lingo, but it's building each plate with 2/3 to 3/4 vegetables, a nice serving of real protein, and a serving of healthful fat. And that's what I tell my folks all the time. If you take away anything from this experience, make your meals follow the meal template, most meals, most of the time, for the rest of your life. And, if you're going to add something that's more grain based, a pasta or some rice or some lentils or something like that. It's in addition to that template. It's not, okay, I'm going to have pasta and meat. It's like,
Right.
no, it's like build your template. And I think to me, it's profound, and it's the thing that really can really change how you think about what goes on a meal plate and what is the composition of this plate.
We see a lot of plates. And I know
We do see a lot of plates.
I know, and every time we do a group, and I'm coaching a group with Debbie, in the beginning, the plate's not perfect, and that's okay. That's part of the learning curve. But I would say the thing that I see the most is that there's no greens, on that plate. And breakfast, right? Breakfast can be hard because people have this mental block of, look, we grew up with Pop-Tarts, muffins, and pancakes that were thought to be a good breakfast and
waffle and cereal
right.
and oatmeal. I mean, it's just like
right.
It's a plate of sugar.
It's a plate of a glucose spike, too. And now we know all these things. We know so much more. And so I think the challenge is that we try to give bite-sized chunks of things. And I think it can be overwhelming, Teri, for people. And I get it. There's a lot of information out there. So what's your best advice to someone who's saying, all right, I woke up this morning and I just know I need to change and I want to change? What's your best advice for that person?
Why not try a Whole30? Why not just do it? You can do it. You can do it today. You can start today. It depends so much on what kind of person they are. Like, if they need to be accountable to somebody else, or if they just need a little information, or if they need to figure out why they've been pushing so hard against taking care of themselves or something. Or I might say, try this for breakfast today. Have some scrambled eggs with some grains, peppers, and onions, and just see what you feel like. Sometimes if you can get a tiny win in right off at the beginning, it's like, yeah, I had that breakfast and I wasn't craving as much my Frappuccino, at 10, just, something. Give them a little win to start out. I direct people to the Fabs all the time. Like, if they're like, well, what? I don't really know about this, that. And I'm like, why don't you join this group and just watch for a while and see what you think,
Yeah. I'm glad the group is there, to help people navigate. Cause I do think it's overwhelming. It's a lot. Look, I mean, I'm in the field and you're in the field, and there's a lot of information out there, and I'm trying to take it all in, and it's hard because I'm taking it in to help myself, but also to help others. And so it is challenging. So what I would tell people is find someone like us that can help you a little bit navigate and just point you to what's important. But I don't think there's a person on the planet who wouldn't benefit from a Whole30 and wouldn't learn something about themselves, especially if you do it properly and you do the reintroduction. Reintroduction police is out again, but you got to do the reintroduction, because that is where you learn even more. So, we do reintroduction. Like, if some people need to go a little stricter, some people need to be AIP, some people, what I would just say is a good rule of thumb is that if you eliminate ultra processed food, that's 5 or more ingredients. If you just did that, let's say you eliminated ultra processed food, sugar, and alcohol for a month and see how you feel. Let's see.
It would be transformative. I mean, especially for somebody who's just following your standard American diet, it would be utterly transformative to change those things. Yeah.
I want to go back to the holistic health stuff. Every time I see a picture of you, it just looks like health to me. You've got a garden, you've got this big smile. When I needed to learn how to make bone broth, I went to Teri. Teri, help me out here. So talk about some of these things that you do in your own life that kind of help this.
Like you said, we have a huge garden. We have, 23, 25 raised beds. We just really love it. And the front yard we're turning it kind of into a native woodland prairie, and so we're trying to get some medicinal herbs out there, and so that is my happy place, to be out there working in the gardens, eternally weeding. But And I think other things, I did go through herbalism school, and I am actually a clinical herbalist. I do not practice as an herbalist at all because it's funny. Like when I went to herb school, and I believe in herbs, and the plant power is very powerful. But I also saw that if somebody's eating a completely garbage diet, drinking a cup of tea isn't going to change anything. And that's where I got much more into food. And it's like, you get your diet dialed in, let's talk about some of these herbal supports. But really, you're sledgehammering everything with your diet. That it's just not going to help too much.
Right.
But one practice I do is a daily herbal infusion, where it's like an ounce of herbs in a quart jar covered with boiling water, and I pour it off in the morning, and then we just drink it through the day. And I use nettles, which is super high in calcium and magnesium, and it's just a great way to get good mineral support. Or linden flowers, or comfrey, or red clover. We switch them around, and that's just another support. It's like a bone broth or something, just to get more nutrition in, more minerals in. Just healthy living wise, I do go to the gym 5 days a week, and I'm getting where I almost like it, which is huge for me. I'm talking to a major coach and athlete right here, and I have just never liked exercise. I just don't like it. I want to sit down and pull weeds, and I want to read my books is what I want to do. But again, it's like, knowing it's just a fact. My body's not going to work if I don't exercise it, and I don't have to like it. It's like, I'm a grown-ass woman.
Hopefully you can find something that you like. And that is the key too. You try some different things. And I could see you resonating with the practices like yoga. I mean, yoga is a good workout, but you can also do a lot of deep breathing and very, it's intense without being intense is what I tell people, and it's a different way to move your body. And I do like mixing it up. I don't like doing the same workouts all the time. I like to change it up, and your body likes that too. But I tell people it's real simple. It's move it or lose it. I'm moving it. I'm choosing to move it.
It's really, really true. And I had my hip replaced a year and a half ago, and it was just in such bad shape from really bad arthritis in that joint that I was down to so little movement prior to that. I could hobble around the block once a day. But other than that, I mostly sat in a hard chair because that was more comfortable than a soft chair or bed, like for 10 hours a day. And so, now I can do anything, and it's pretty glorious just to be pain-free and be able to do things. And just knowing, like, I know I need to if I'm going to work out with any degree of rigor, I need to be in a class. I need a coach. I need a group. And it works out. I go every day at 9:30 and I take the class. So sometimes it's just doing the thing you need to do, whether you like it or don't like it. And the more you do what you don't like, you're going to like it more.
Right. And the thing is, you're finding out what works for you. And that's back to where we started this conversation, right? Your body's going to tell you, not every type of workout is good for everyone. Everyone can't go and do CrossFit. Like I looked at it, I was like, back in the day, I probably would have loved to have done CrossFit, but like I have a bad knee. That doesn't seem smart to me, So you have to find what works for you and listen to your body. And I think where people fail on an exercise front is that their expectations are unrealistic when they start. It's always like, well, I'm going to work out 1 hour a day, and they become a member at a gym, and the gym is 25 minutes, and it's a chore to get in the car. And so you really have to find out what you're all about. This is what we've gone back to. And, we were referring to what you all might have heard Teri and I kind of refer to was the Gretchen Rubin Tendencies. The quiz will tell you the type of personality that you are. And Teri is a questioner, without question. No pun intended. Pun intended. Teri is a questioner. I am an upholder without question, but I do definitely have, an obliger wing to me where I do want to help please others. So we'll link the quiz for folks to kind of see who you are. You have to know yourself, because if you're trying to do what your friend down the street does, it may not work for you. And so as a trainer, when I would come up with a training program, what I would tell people is what are your time, what's the time that you have to devote to this? And if that meant 30 minutes, 3 days a week, okay, then we're going to do a workout plan. That's 30 days, 3 times a week. And, as a trainer, we would train people differently depending on the number of days they had, because you want to train the entire body. But if you only have 3 days to work with, you got to do things a little bit differently than if you have 5. And so there is a science to it. So I always recommend to people too, if you're a little lost from a workout standpoint, see a trainer, because they can point you in the right direction, and they certainly should be helping you to see what your deficiencies and imbalances are, so that you don't hurt yourself doing an exercise, because that's really important as we get older, and very important to address. You're going to be on here next time talking about these workouts that you do. I know, I can feel it. Something else I think we can bring up, because this is going to hit right before near Thanksgiving. Okay, so I was wondering if you would want to, before we go, share some tips for folks for navigating the holidays, because that's a big animal.
One thing, and I know this is a big thing for our coach friend Debbie Marlowe as well, is eat a Whole30 breakfast every day of the holidays, no matter what. It really sets you in a good position for the day. Your body is adequately fueled. You've got some good nutrients inside, and you're going to be less likely to go off the rails if you at least started that way, and the next day you're going to start that way. I think that's really powerful. And then I am very big on nutrient-dense alternatives to traditional, cookies, pies, cakes, breads, all of that. I think, having things made with nut flours to make and minimally sweetened, maybe with honey, can really be very pleasing and satisfying, but doesn't necessarily set you off like, okay, now Whole30 breakfast. I don't think so. I think it's pie. It's like, it's more calming on your system, because you're bringing in nutrients with that little hint of sweet, and it just keeps you a little more stable. And it's still very, especially if you've come off a Whole30 and your palate is kind of cleansed from sugar, some of the, less sweetened, healthier versions can be extremely satisfying. For sure. And then just stick to what routines, you have. Like, I am a routine aholic. I function so much better when I have my routines. Like, I do this, get up in the morning, I walk my dog, I take a sauna, I eat my breakfast, I, work for a while, I go to my class at 9:30, and that's every day, weekdays. And I think if you can hang to your routine as much as possible, and then if you go to a party and you do all the things and you drink and you eat things that make you feel terrible, well, get up tomorrow morning and eat your Whole30 breakfast. It's not the end of the world. It's just a party, whatever. Just don't either get so hung up and guilty that you become paralyzed, or don't let it be the on-ramp to
That's the
mayhem.
thing. That's the thing. People will think like, oh, I did this already, so how the heck with it. No, but it doesn't have to be like that. And again, you have to think of these things like learning experience. I don't know about you, but this is how I used to think. And I used to be like, when it was a holiday, I wouldn't eat anything all day, because I was like, oh, I'm going to save my appetite for.
Okay.
And then you overeat at that. That is the worst thing you can do.
It's a terrible feeling. Yeah, even like Thanksgiving, get up and eat your Whole30 breakfast. And you're still gonna enjoy that meal just as much, but you're probably not gonna feel frantic to fill it as full. You'll have nutrition in your body. Yeah.
Yeah, and no thank you is a sentence that people can use. It's a full
Right.
sentence if you
Right.
want. And so I would say too, like, I mean, I know, are probably in the same boat as me. I mean, for 7 years, I've pretty much been a part of Thanksgiving meals that have had healthier alternatives, and I
Oh,
don't ever feel like I'm
absolutely.
missing out. And
Yeah.
I've cooked for others who have no idea that they're eating
And
healthier,
that is
because I've
fun.
got that's fun. I've
It's
got
really
smashed sweet potatoes. I mean, I remember Just Jessie B had this regular mashed potato recipe that I love to make. And then now, even at the clinic, we get, and our patients are on a stricter protocol than what Whole30 is. And we've got stuff. We've got these pumpkin blondies that my good friend Kelly Hatke, one of our coaches, put a recipe up last year, and an apple crumble. And they use, one uses tiger nut flour, which I love, for the apple crumble. And then the pumpkin blondies, there's literally like 3 ingredients. It's pumpkin, it's coconut oil, and it's maple syrup, and they don't move my glucose an ounce. I can make a sugar cookie with almond flour. Sugar cookie. It's not a sugar cookie. I'm making that, and I'm not, I mean, I make it for my husband. We put a dash of like almond extract in it.
Mhm.
It tastes like you're eating a cookie, but it doesn't spike my glucose. So there
That's
are
great.
healthier alternatives. And I think that's what folks like you and everyone else can help people with.
Well, I want those recipes in my inbox. Those blondies and the almond cookies.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
they're so good and so simple. That's the other thing. It's really, really simple. So there are ways to do it.
There really are. And if people, like, if you do come join Fabulous After 50, we have a section, and I have a little mini cookbook I put in there of nutrient dense foods for the holidays, so come on over and grab that anyway.
Yeah, no, I remember that. That thing's got some really good recipes in it. And so I will definitely link that for people who are getting near the holidays. And I know it's a struggle sometimes. And then, you've protecting your own mental space during the holidays is another conversation that we'll get into at another point in time, because that's another podcast.
Bring on a professional for that.
That's another podcast, right? We're dealing with family dynamics, and then turning to the food, and like all of us, or the awareness of like having a conversation, and suddenly you're eating more than you know. And you just were like, holy cow, I'm just sitting, and then you've drank more and you've eaten more than you know. Mocktails are a nice little step. I made that Whole30, the book that Melissa had, had some Thanksgiving recipes. She had a cookbook.
Like the Friends and Family.
Yeah, the Friends and Family one. Like that sangria that's in there. What I did, I made that sangria for Thanksgiving. And it was non-alcoholic, of course. But then if there were people that wanted wine, they could put it in their own personal one. And people didn't put the wine in because it was so good. So there are ways out there, folks, to navigate the holidays.
Yeah.
Teri, what else? Is there anything else that you want to leave us with, another thought? Because, I mean, I don't want you to think this is your only appearance either, and you have to get it all out now. You and I could talk for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So,
just be easy on yourself. The world is a really, really stressful place right now on basically every front, and just kind of, don't become one more battering ram against yourself. I mean, there are ways to eat healthier, and come join us and we'll help you do that, but just be gentle with yourself. You're doing the best you can, and we can give you a little more information, and you can do a little better.
Sounds good. Now, let people know too. I'm going to link the group, but how else can folks connect with you if they'd like to?
I have very little personal social media presence at all. I mean, the best way to find me is really in the Facebook group. I have an Instagram. I don't know my handle.
I'll link it.
I don't post. It's okay. I mean, you can message me there for sure. But you could email me at kchole30@gmail. And otherwise, find me on the Fabs, message me there. Is probably the best way. Don't have a website, don't have a presence. Or become my friend on Facebook and you can see my gardens.
That's right. It's worth it just to see the gardens. Literally, it is, people. Like, just see the gardens. Like, I just feel a sense of peace when I see the pictures. So, Teri, thank you for coming on today. And I know you're going to come on again, but, we've only scratched the surface today. But thank you for coming on.
This was so fun. Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of Ripple Effect Connection. We hope you enjoyed this Coach's Corner with Teri Riley. What did you hear today that you can apply to your own health and well-being? I'd love to hear your takeaways. I'm always up for talking about my work in this area or anything else. I'd love to hear from you, so connect with me on social media and let me know what resonated with you. Reach out on Instagram at WholeHealthKristi. You can get the full show notes for this and all episodes on my website, kristihujik.com/podcast. Next, spread the inspiration. Like, follow, review, and share this podcast with others who may benefit from these stories. Stay tuned for the next episode of Ripple Effect Connection. Let's create waves of change together.